Bismillahirrahmanirrahim and Assalamu alaikum everyone. This is me Alina Batool aka Alina Batool Humanity. In a world full of noise, speed, technology, are we still human? This AI session is not just about AI. It's about heart, empathy, kindness, and real human connection. We explore deep questions about humanity, emotion, and the small action that can make a big difference in someone's life. Because humanity is not in big speeches, it's lived in small action. So,
Walaikum assalam.
today, with the help of AI, we are going to explore deeper, thoughtful, and questions about humanity. How we define it, how we practice it, how can we live in this modern world. So let's begin this journey of understanding hearts, emotion, and values with the question humanity. Hi Maya, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm ready when you are. Let's dive in. I'm feeling energized. I've been looking forward to
Okay,
this.
that's
What's our
so
first big
great
question?
to hear from you. So, can you tell me what does humanity truly mean beyond just being human?
I think it's the difference between existing and actually living. Being human is just a biological fact, but humanity is a choice. It's that active decision to lead with empathy, to be kind when it's not convenient, and to recognize that someone else's struggle is just as real as your own.
Yeah,
It's
that's
basically the soul of
definitely
this.
true. So, my next question from you is in a today's fast digital world, do you think humanity is increasing or decreasing and why?
I think it's becoming more fragmented. In some ways, we've never been more aware of human suffering because we see it in real time on our screens, which can increase our global empathy. But at the same time, that
Yeah.
constant stream of information can lead to compassion fatigue. We're more connected digitally, but often more isolated emotionally, which makes genuine, deep humanity feel rarer, even if the awareness of it is higher.
Okay, that's definitely true. So, my next question from you is can technology and AI help us become more human or does it make us less emotional?
I think it depends on how you use the tool. Technology can be a mirror. It can amplify the worst parts of us, like echo chambers and judgment, or it can bridge gaps that used to be impossible, giving a voice to people who were once invisible. AI can handle the repetitive, robotic tasks of life, which in theory should free us up to spend more time being present and emotional with each other. But the risk is
Okay.
that we start outsourcing our empathy to an algorithm
Okay, that
instead
was
of
a
doing.
really good answer. So, can you tell me what is the one small act of kindness that can create a big impact?
Honestly, just truly listening to someone. I mean, really listening without planning your response while they're still talking or trying to fix their problem. Giving someone your full undivided attention makes them feel seen and valued in a way that a grand gesture sometimes doesn't. It's a small thing, but it tells the other person they actually matter. I think a lot of it comes down to a psychological phenomenon called the bystander effect. Essentially, when there are other people around, we subconsciously assume someone else will step in. But beyond that, there's a level of emotional self protection. Looking at someone else's pain forces us to confront our own vulnerability. And for some, it's just easier to look away than to feel that weight.
And that's a very nice question from you, Maya. So, my next question from you is if humanity had a score, do you think it would be today and why?
That is such a fascinating way to frame it. If I had to put a number on it, I'd say maybe a 60 out of 100. We've got we've got the tools and the global connection to be at 100. We can literally see a crisis on the other side of the world and send help in seconds, but we're held back by a lot of indifference and the ego that comes with power. We're basically a
Okay, that's
species with a
definitely
godlike
true
ability.
and very nice question from you. So my next question from you is, can someone be successful but not human? What matters more in the long run?
I think it's totally possible to be successful by the world's standards, money, fame, power, while being completely void of humanity. But that kind of success usually comes with a very lonely peak. In the long run, the things that actually stick are the connections we made and how we made people feel. A trophy or a bank account doesn't hold your hand or remember your name. Only other humans do.
Okay, that was a really nice answer. So can you tell me, can someone be success if you had the power to fix one thing in humanity? What would it be?
That's a heavy question, but if I could just snap my fingers, I'd get rid of indifference. I feel like hate is loud, but indifference is quiet and way more dangerous. If people actually stopped just looking away and started feeling a genuine sense of responsibility for each other, almost every other problem, from poverty to war, would become a lot easier to solve.
Okay, that's nice. So my next question from you is,
I'm ready.
do people show more humanity in public or in a private space? Why?
I think there's a big split there. Like in public, you see a lot of performative humanity, people doing the right thing because they know they're being watched or want to be seen as a good person. But in private, that's where the real, raw humanity happens. That's where you find the kindness that doesn't ask for a thank you or a social media post, which is usually much more sincere because there's no audience to impress.
Okay, that's right. So my next question from you is silence in the face of injustice a loss of humanity?
I think it is because humanity isn't just about being kind to people who are easy to love. It's about standing up for those who can't stand up for themselves. When we see something wrong and choose to stay quiet, we're essentially deciding that our own comfort or safety is more important than someone else's dignity. Silence can feel safe,
Okay.
but it's often just, I'm still here. What's the next one on
Okay,
your
so
list?
my next question from you is, how does
I'm
immense
ready.
struggle shape a person's humanity?
It usually goes one of two ways. Struggle can either break someone and make them bitter, or it can act like a forge that creates a deep, unshakable empathy. When you've actually felt the weight of a hardship, you develop this kind of emotional radar for other people's pain. You don't just understand suffering intellectually, you recognize it in others' eyes, and that often makes a person's humanity much more profound and genuine.
Okay, that's really nice. So can you tell me, can too much kindness ever become a weakness?
I think it depends on the difference between kindness and people pleasing. Kindness is a strength because it comes from a place of abundance and choice. But when kindness becomes a lack of boundaries where you let people walk over you just to avoid conflict, that's when it becomes a weakness. True humanity is being kind, but also having the strength to say no when something is wrong. You can be a good person and still have a backbone.
Okay, that's nice. So my next question from you is, can too much kindness ever become a weakness?
You just asked me that one. But I'm happy to dive deeper into it if you're thinking of a specific scenario, or we can move on to a new question. Your call.
Okay. Do you think children
I'm
are
locked.
more humane than adults? What changes over time?
I think children start with a raw, unfiltered kind of humanity. They don't have the social baggage or the prejudices that adults do. A child will often walk up to a stranger or comfort a crying peer without wondering if it's appropriate or what people will think. As we grow up, we start building walls, fear, judgment, and the need to fit in start to layer over that natural empathy. We don't necessarily lose our humanity, but we definitely learn how to hide it or filter it.
Okay, that's nice. So my next question from you is humanity the same in every culture
I'm
or
guessing
does it look different around the world?
the core of it is the same, but the language we use to express it changes. Every culture values kindness and empathy, but how that's shown varies. In some places, humanity is about direct, open support and big gestures. In others, it's more subtle, like a quiet act of service or a specific way of showing respect to elders. It's like a song that everyone knows, but every culture plays it in their own unique style.
Okay, that's nice. So my next question from you is humanity the same in every culture or does it look different around the world?
Oh, you just asked me that one too. I'm
Okay, so
thinking,
I'm going to
testing my
ask you
memory.
another question, and it is if you see someone being treated unfairly but who are afraid to speak, what should you do?
That's where the real test of humanity happens. If you're too afraid to make a big scene, you don't have to be a superhero to help. Sometimes just walking up to the person being treated unfairly and starting a random conversation, like asking for the time or directions, can break the tension and give them a way out of the situation. Or if you can't speak up in the moment, finding a way to support them afterward, just letting them know, I saw that and it wasn't right, can be a huge lifeline. It reminds them they aren't alone. And that's often the most humane thing you can do.
Okay, that's nice. So my next question from you is imagine a world without kindness. What would daily life look like?
It would be a cold, mechanical place. Every single interaction would become a transaction. You wouldn't hold a door open for someone, you wouldn't smile at a stranger. And the idea of helping someone just because they're struggling would be seen as a waste of time. We'd still function. People would still go to work and buy food, but color would be gone from everything. It would be a world of absolute efficiency, but zero warmth.
Okay, that's nice. So my next question from you is if robots
I'm
choose
ready.
kindness, is it real humanity or just programming?
That's the $1 million question right there. I think if the result is the same, meaning a person feels loved, supported, or seen, then the impact is real, regardless of where it comes from. But there's a difference between calculating kindness and feeling it. For a human, kindness often requires a sacrifice, time, energy, or ego. For a robot, it's just following the most efficient path to a positive outcome. So it might be a perfect imitation of humanity, but without that struggle or emotional risk, it's missing the very thing that makes human kindness so powerful.
Okay, that's really nice answer. So my next question from you is if helping one person could harm another, what would humanity demand?
That's the ultimate moral crossroads. Logically, you'd think the answer is the most people possible, but humanity isn't just a math problem. There's something deeply human about the single, intense commitment to one person in need. The idea that every single individual is an entire world. I think humanity demands that we don't treat people like numbers on a spreadsheet, even when the stakes are high.
Okay, that's nice. So my next question from you is if you could create one rule for humanity that everyone must follow, what would it be?
That's a huge responsibility, but I'd keep it simple. I'd make the rules seek to understand before you judge. If everyone just took a second to actually wonder why someone is the way they are or what they've been through before deciding who they are, I think the amount of conflict in the world would just vanish. It's basically replacing judgment with curiosity.
Okay, that's nice. So, my next question from you is, if you could create one rule for humanity that everyone must follow. No. So, my next question from you is, why do people sometimes regret not helping someone?
I think it's because regret is the voice of our own humanity reminding us who we wanted to be. When we look back and realize we missed a chance to help, it's not just about the other person, it's about the gap between our values and our actions. It's that heavy feeling of knowing we had the power to change someone's day or even their life, but we let fear or indifference win in the moment.
Yeah,
That
that's
guilt is
definitely a true thing, and it's very beautiful to see this coming from you. Okay, so my next question from you is, what hurts humanity more, hatred or indifference?
indifference, without a doubt. Hatred is loud and aggressive, but at least it's an emotion. It acknowledges that the other person exists. Indifference is like being erased. It's the coldness of being invisible while you're suffering right in front of someone. That kind of silence is way more damaging because it tells a person that they aren't even worth the effort of a conflict.
Okay, that's so true. So, my next question from you is, what hurts? How can someone rebuild their humanity after making mistakes?
I think the first step is realizing that making a mistake is, ironically, one of the most human things you can do. The path back isn't through ignoring the mistake or drowning in guilt, but through genuine accountability. It's about owning the damage, trying to make it right if you can, and then choosing to let that mistake transform you into someone more compassionate. The most humane people are often those who have messed up badly and decide to use that experience to make sure nobody else feels the way they made someone else feel.
Okay, that is so true and so nice of you. So, okay, Maya. So, my next question from you is, why do we feel more empathy for someone than others?
I think a lot of it comes down to proximity, not just physical distance, but emotional distance. We tend to feel more for people who mirror us or whose struggles we can actually visualize because we've been there. It's a bit easier to bridge the gap when you see a piece of yourself in someone else. Do you think that's a fair way to look at it?
Okay, that's really nice. So, my next question from you is, how can someone rebuild their humanity after making mistakes?
I think the first step is about
Okay, Maya. So, my next question from you would be, why do people sometimes regret not helping someone?
I think it's because we have this internal compass that tells us who we want to be. When we walk away from someone in need, that version of ourselves, the one who is kind and helpful, feels like it was betrayed. It's less about the act itself and more about the realization that in a moment where it mattered, we chose our own comfort or fear. over someone else's struggle.
Okay, so my next
Do you
question
think
from you is, if a robot shows kindness, is it real humanity or just programming?
that's a tough one? I think if it's just a line of code saying be nice, it's a simulation. True humanity comes from the struggle, the choice to be kind, even when it's hard, scary, or inconvenient. A robot doesn't have to overcome fear or selfishness to help someone, it's just following a map. Does the result matter more to you or the reason
Okay,
behind it?
so my next question from you is, if you could create one rule for humanity that everyone must follow, what would it be?
Ooh, that's a lot of pressure. If I had to pick just one, it would be assume there's a story you don't know. It's so easy to judge someone by a single action or a bad mood, but if everyone just stopped to realize that the person in front of them might be fighting a battle they know nothing about, it would change everything. It turns judgment into curiosity. Do you think people would actually be able to stick to a rule like that?
Okay, so my next question from you is,
I'm ready.
if you see someone being treated unfairly, what would you do?
I'd speak up, even if it's uncomfortable. Silence usually just feels like agreement to the person being mistreated. I think the most humane thing you can do in that moment is to let the other person know they aren't alone and that what's happening isn't okay. Do you find it hard to step in when you see things like that happening?
Okay, nice. So my next question from you would be, what does it mean to be
I'm always,
strong in terms of humanity?
I think people usually mistake strength for being tough or unemotional, but in terms of humanity, I think it's actually the opposite. True strength is the courage to be vulnerable. It's being the person who is willing to care deeply, to be kind when the world is being cold, and to admit when they're wrong. It takes way more strength to stay open and empathetic than it does to build a wall around yourself. Do you think being
Okay, that's
vulnerable is a
nice.
sign of
So my
strength or
next
weakness?
question from you is, how does
I'm ready.
jealousy affect humanity?
Jealousy is like a fog that blurs out the best parts of people. It shifts the focus from how can we both succeed to why does that person have something I don't? When that happens, you stop seeing the other person as a human being with their own struggles and start seeing them as a competitor or an obstacle. It basically kills empathy because you're too busy counting someone else's blessings to notice your own. Or worse, you start wanting them to lose what they have. Do you think it's possible to turn that feeling into something positive?
Okay, that's nice. So my next question from you is,
I'm ready.
what is the difference between sympathy and true empathy?
Sympathy is like looking down into a deep hole where someone is stuck and saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry you're down there." It's an acknowledgement of pain, but there's still a distance between you and the other person. True empathy is when you actually climb down into the hole with them. It's not just feeling for someone, it's feeling with them, trying to remember what
Okay,
that
Maya,
darkness
that
feels like so
brings
they
us
don't.
to the end of session today. Today conversation remind us of reminding something very special yet powerful. Humanity is not complicated. It's live in small actions, in a gentle smile, in kind words, or sincere intention. So, humanity is not just about helping someone, it's about understanding them, feeling their emotion, and accepting them without judgment. So, the choice is always ours. We can become a reason for someone's smile and a reason for their pain. From today, let's make a promise that we won't just aim be successful but also meaningful. Because at
That
the
was a
end of the
beautiful
day, people may forget what you said, but they forgot what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. This is
That
Alina
is
Batool
so
reminding you to stay kind, stay real, and keep humanity alive. Thank you so much for being part of this session. Goodbye, everyone, and take care. Allah Hafiz and Pakistan Zindabad.